I'm going to mute myself.
Hi guys, it's Mr. Sci-Fi, Mark Zicree.
Hi.
And here we are. Hold on, let's see if we're muted. We're muted, Link. So we have to unmute. There we go. Hi guys. There we are. So it's the simulcast with the table and Mr. Sci-Fi. So here we all
Hi,
are.
Mark. Hi, Elaine. He's much better, as you can
Oh,
see.
oh good.
Oh, we
Well,
see?
we
He's
can't
back to
see.
his wiggly self.
We can see a
Great.
bed. We can't see a dog, but that's okay.
That's great.
The Mark.
Okay, good.
Oh,
Good. It's a
great.
fluffy puppy. Yes,
Great.
yes, David.
I'm Adam tonight.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't see Mr. Sci-Fi on the channel yet.
Well, I'm live. I'm live on Mr. Sci-Fi, so clearly.
No, but I don't see any
What?
people there.
Well, no one's maybe there, but that's not relevant to whether I'm on. There's somebody. See?
There's 4 watching.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay.
Yes. So great. But welcome everyone. It's good to see all of you, and many more adventures to come.
We're good.
We're good. Okay, so here's Elaine, and here's me,
Whoa.
and so David, are there any Mr. Sci-Fi questions yet?
There is a Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Okay.
Is 494. I love your 70s sci-fi review. When
Thanks.
we review the 80s, we review John Carpenter's They Live.
Yes, I will.
A great allegory about the Reagan administration, and theme of the movie holds up today.
Well, yes, I will. They Live is a great movie. In fact, I just bought the 4K version, and it's really one of the best TV pilots ever made that wasn't a TV pilot. It was a standalone feature, and it should have been a TV pilot because it certainly could have generated a TV series. And I hope someday someone does exactly that. But yes, and also I'm going to do a third part of the 70s, the history of 70s science fiction films, because there are a few movies I didn't touch on, such as The Black Hole and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the Donald Sutherland one, and so forth. So I will be doing a little bit of a coda. Yeah.
They Live has a I think 10-minute long fist fight in it. This is the most ridiculous and awesome fist fight.
Yes.
In history.
The main weakness with the film is that it's not an actor playing the lead. It's Roddy Piper, who was a wrestler, and so he doesn't bring the skill to the role that Kurt Russell brings to the thing. But still. So okay. So I guess let's see. I see Nina at the top of my thing. Do you want to take your turn, Nina? Okay. Great.
I'm doing something.
Well, there you go. It's part of your charm.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
My name's Nina Cruz. I'm an actress and a singer.
Mhm.
I do nefarious things. If I make money at it, I'll do it.
Okay.
And things are okay. We're melting out here.
Huh. Uh-huh.
So we actually can see asphalt. which
Good.
is
That's great.
a welcome thing.
Good,
Pretty
good.
bad. Things are just going. They're going along.
Great.
I'm busy kicking my butt. Stars and dollar signs.
Great.
I think of you every day.
So is there anything
Stars and dollar signs.
is there anything you need?
I can't hear you.
Oh, is there anything you need?
Nope. Just want to check in, say hi.
Okay.
Well, take care, you guys.
Great.
Thank you.
You bet. Yay. 3
Thanks.
cheers.
Thanks for keeping
So-
up the good fight.
Yes.
Good
So
for you. Great example.
yes. So David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Not yet.
Okay.
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 Okay. Let's move to Judith, who was up all night for guess what reason, and
Go
so
for
I
it.
What
said
happens with new mothers? But he's
Yeah.
feeling better now. She's going to send me some medicine for him.
For the dog. She's talking about a
For
dog,
the dog,
not a
yeah.
child.
Not for anybody else.
No.
Not for my roommate. I could care of,
Yeah.
I haven't obviously been doing all that much because I've been, but things are moving along. I'm getting the half dead. I'm writing the treatment, and it's complicated.
Cool.
So what I'm doing is what you guys do. I'm taking each section and putting it together, so that I can run the whole thing together, so that when it's time to write the script, I want to register the treatment. I was
Sure.
going to do it this week, but I got a little sidetracked.
Yeah. Sure.
I had lunch with Billy yesterday, my cousin Billy Reback, who wrote Home Improvement. Hi guys, these are my furry buddies. we had some discussions about Half Dead and Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Cool.
And I'm clear now on some stuff that I want to smooth out in my other two, Apocalyptic and Sebastian and Josie, and My Little Pet. So I've got my work cut out for me. Now that I've got the dog and he's okay, you know, I can get on. Well, thank God. I mean, I'm so tired. And you know, when you have a new puppy, they're up every 2 hours.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm like, my nose is going to fall on the computer. And I think after this, I'm going to say goodnight. I just want to say hi.
Okay. Well, good to see you.
But
and thank you thank you guys for.
Of course. Of course.
You've just been
sure.
so phenomenal.
Thanks.
Well, but I'm really glad that you're meticulously prepping before you start the write, before you start writing, where you really know where you're going. I wrote a thing called Snow Princess, and it was about all kinds of things, but it had a mystery underpinning. And it took me 2 weeks to make sure that every twist and turn was exactly spot on. Now, it was frustrating because I don't have a mystery mind, and I knew that a mystery writer could have done what I did in 15 minutes. But that wasn't the point. I was the one writing it, and it took me 2 weeks, with all these little cross arrows and people and motivation, potential and big motivations. But then nobody noticed it. Nobody said anything about it. It became invisible because there were no holes. But I just had to sit down and take the 2 weeks, even knowing that it was because I had
put everything together because there's 2 stories. There's a story of, there's 3 actually, and John Lafitte, the pirate. I have to do some more research, because he figures prominently in this.
Right.
Great. That's great. So anything else, Judith?
No, all I need is some.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Well, 3 cheers. Yay.
Thanks for joining us. Yay.
Well.
Great.
Hopefully we'll be able to get them all together. He's vaccinated next week,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2 weeks later, and then after that, we can take him out.
Great. Terrific. Well, 3 cheers. Yay.
So thank you so much. I'm going to go now because
Yes.
I'm like, I can't talk.
That's fine.
I can't talk.
Yeah.
No, that
Yes.
I have to be tired.
Yes. Sure. Well,
Good night,
great.
everybody.
Bye.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Bye.
2 cheers. So is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
There is.
Uh,
From Hayes 494, when you review part 3 of 70s Sci-Fi, will you consider reviewing Alan J. Pakula's The Parallax View? It's a great conspiracy film with sci-fi element.
That's an interesting question. I'll make a note of it. I don't remember it as being sci-fi enough to really be categorized as a science fiction film, but I'll revisit that just to see. Yeah, I'll check it out. And David, have you reached out to James Hong yet? You got the email from me?
I got the email from you. If not, we need to talk about that first.
We'll talk about that later. Okay, great. So next on my screen now, I assume you don't want to take your turn yet, David, correct?
No, I don't.
Okay, so John Watson, why don't you take your turn?
Hi, John.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I'm looking for table readers.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Great. Well, now are you on the table email?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, you can coordinate with David Bartlett to get on the table email, and you can put out a request like that, and you'll get a lot of response. Obviously, table read should be done on Zoom now because of the pandemic, but there are a lot of actors who I'm sure would be happy to do it.
But can he reach you through the chat, David?
Yeah, I'll give him an email and everything too.
Great.
He can definitely chat with me
Great.
right now.
So they'll
Terrific.
get you signed up, and then you put out that you're looking for a table read, and just a few lines of who you need for the readers, for the characters to really come up, and say, just so that you'll have appropriate voices, and then you can create a Zoom situation.
Yep. So
Okay, yeah.
okay, so
Yeah, I have Zoom all set up, so it's,
great.
Great. So would you like to
Yeah.
introduce yourself a little bit?
huh?
Would you like to introduce yourself to the crowd?
Oh, yeah, John Watson, and I'm a writer.
Great. And so is there anything else you need?
Right now, no.
Okay. Well, great. Well, good to see you, John.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Okay.
Yay. So you can so David, do we have another Mr. Sci-Fi question? And again, for the
From
Yeah.
Mr. Sci-Fi, Scott Baker.
Hi,
and
Scott.
Emily, do you have any stories about Fantastic Journey, a Dorothy Fontana-led effort that lasted only 10 episodes? I was working so much when DC died, I missed the news. Never knew. What a loss.
Okay. Dorothy Fontana, better known as DC Fontana, started out as Gene Roddenberry's secretary and became ultimately a writer and story editor on the original Star Trek, and then went on to be a contributor on many shows and a very renowned writing teacher, screenwriting teacher at the American Film Institute. She was a wonderful person. She was married to one of the Skotaks. She was married to Dennis Skotak, one of the great model makers in film history. And
I remember now.
yeah, and she was a delightful person. I knew her fairly well, and she was a very, very good writer. I have a couple of original Star Trek scripts that she wrote that she signed to me, which was terrific. In terms of Fantastic Journey, I don't remember that show very well. I think I watched a couple episodes when it was on. And yeah, there were a lot of shows that kind of just came and went back then. And remember also that in the 1970s, you know, for most of that decade, there were no VCRs. And so there was, if it aired and then, you know, shows that aired for a year or less would not come back in syndication. Generally, the wisdom was that you needed at least 3 seasons of a show to make it viable for daily syndication. And so a lot of shows, I mean, if Star Trek had only had 2 seasons, it would have suffered a similar fate. Fortunately, it got that 3rd season thanks to the fans sending 1 million letters to NBC, one of which was mine. And I picketed NBC with the rest of them. B. Joe Trimble and John Trimble headed that up. When I was a kid. But yeah, so, but now, of course, with YouTube, I'll bet if you type that in, you could watch probably every episode. So, because a lot of people are putting these rarities onto YouTube now. It's my favorite channel because there's just such an enormous amount of cool stuff there. So that's my thought on that. So let's see. So Dave Edison, you're next on my screen.
Hey, hello everyone. Hope you and yours are doing well. Fine here so far.
Good.
Looking forward to a vaccine someday. Otherwise, just staying in the house most of the time. Let's see. We've got a Kickstarter campaign coming up on Space Command. So I've been working on that video. I just sent it to David Bartlett to do some sound work on it, to work his magic. And working on the animatic. We got most of the pages for the Von Odara section. Those of you who know Space Command, that's the role played by the late Mira Furlan.
Yes.
So we're trying to put this together, and we'll have that out sooner than later, hopefully. Other than that, what's up, Mark? What are we doing?
Bunch of stuff. I mean, you know, just
that's kind of what it becomes.
Yeah,
a bunch of stuff. It's like grab one out of the ether.
Yes, but it's all coming along well. I just put together the first 6 hours of Space Command and sent them off to our investors and our actors and our team. It's not ready for public disclosure yet because these are works in progress for the most part. But it is a lot of fun to see the 6 hours straight through, where you can see how the characters start and where they get to, and the flow of the show. So it's really.
Hopefully nobody will post that.
No, I specifically asked them not to, and people have been very, very honorable so far. I'm not losing a moment's sleep over that. Yeah. So
yeah, you just don't want something to be seen by the public until it's ready, until it's gotten every bit of TLC we can give it.
Yeah,
so.
some people hold that view.
Yeah. Other than that, the Kickstarter, I saw a couple of estimated dates on the work in progress Kickstarter page.
Yes.
We need to talk.
Okay, good.
But other than that, just moving forward, keeping busy.
Great.
What was I going to say? I've been given recommendations for odd little things to listen to. So if you're anywhere near a YouTube, punch up. There are a couple of versions of this on there. It's got a time code right in the middle of it. I don't know if there's a better version anywhere. But if you're a fan of the Addams Family, the original Addams Family, Ted Lurch, they did a gimmick 45 called The Lurch. The latest teen dance craze. The Lurch. And Ted Cassidy in the middle of, I think it's Shindig or Hullabaloo or one of those shows.
Yes.
Does The Lurch.
There you go.
And it's an odd little piece. It's a great little piece. So, and there's somebody edited one where it cuts to shots from the Addams Family TV show. That's not the one you should watch. You should find the one that's just the clip from Shindig.
Yes.
And it'll just something for your evening that you won't see anywhere else with any luck.
Yes. Great. Thank you, Dave. Anything else?
No, all good so far. Stay well.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Yay. 3 cheers. Great. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
We have lining up. So we've got now from Dr. Essex Q question. Will you review Heavy Metal as a sci-fi fantasy film?
It's a good idea. I could check it out. Interestingly enough, I've never seen it, so I would have to watch it. But it's a good idea that I should. So I'll make a note of that. Now also I see that we had a Gregory Krug put in a $5 as a whatever they're called, and his question is, Mark, if you and Elaine could take an all expense paid trip to anywhere on Earth, where would you go? Well, this upcoming year, once the pandemic's over, we're going to China because I want to see the Terracotta Army, the warriors.
I saw the Terracotta Soldiers, Mark.
Did you? Was it fun?
It wasn't as good as the Great Wall of China.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so that's a testimonial. And but Elaine, where would you go if you could go anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world. Well, that's
You love Venice.
I loved Italy.
Yeah.
I loved Venice.
Yeah.
I love the people there.
Burbank has a lot going for it.
Burbank is lovely. Lovely Burbank, yes.
Yes.
Except you can't visit Fry's anymore.
No, they closed. That's a shame.
Fry's went out of business.
Oh man, that's a shame.
wow.
That's a shame, Dave. But
Anyway, back to the travelogue.
yeah, there's a lot of places we love. I mean, we're in London quite often, and that's almost like a second home for us, Hampstead. But there's a lot of great places. But of course, I thought you should ask, where in the universe would we go? I mean, obviously, Mars, Europa. There's many great places where, there's a lot of cool places to check out, assuming that one could survive. But so great. But thanks for the great question. So let's see. I guess Stephen, you're next on my screen.
Hi, Mark. Nice chatting with you.
Sure.
As most of you know, I wrote a script in the comments. Would anyone be willing to give suggestions, like to help me improve to become a better writer? I could give you a donation, like as I said in the comments.
Okay.
So I will send you guys an email.
Great. And did you send the email out to the table at large? Did you do that yet? You did, but did you get any response?
They told me to put more descriptions and I used Microsoft Word instead of a
PDF.
Like Final Draft or Movie Magic Screenwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are also free versions.
Yes, but also if you put it in a PDF, that'll make it easier for people to read it. So that would be a suggestion. You can do that from Word. You can easily transfer from Word to. Did you have it at least in the correct script format, or is it not written in the correct script format?
I'm gonna say no because I did it on Microsoft Word.
Yeah, so you might want to put it in the correct script format first, to make it easier for people to read it. But that's up to you. Anything else you need?
What else could you guys, when I send the email to you guys, find some guys who I could get advice from and give donations and all that stuff?
We're really slammed right now, but others could certainly help with that.
That's what I mean.
Basically there's also, I'm trying to think of what would work best. Do you have any thoughts, Elaine? If you go into more detail about what it is, if you offer to pay people a small, whatever you can afford, you'll get response. Again, it's just
one thing that's helpful is if you're just getting the format ready and you're a new writer, it's sometimes good to just ask people to read the first 10 pages.
Yes.
Because that's kind of like a doable bite. Because these scripts tend to be very long and complicated.
It's only 20 pages by script.
Oh, it's short. Well, then you should definitely say
it's a pilot.
Well, you should definitely say that in the email, because when I saw the email, I didn't get that. I thought it was a feature. So
but if it's just 20 pages,
just tell people it's a 20-page pilot, and would someone be willing to look at it for you? And is it comedy or is it?
What are some free programs I could use?
What are the free screenwriting programs?
Dave?
I had sent you an email a couple of weeks ago that I mentioned some of the software. Are you Mac or PC?
PC.
Okay, so there's a lot of them that are only PC, or some of them.
Yeah.
So like Trebly, for example, they're available.
Yeah, yeah,
Check that email I sent you.
but I use Final Draft. It's not that expensive, and it's sort of industry standard, and very, very easy to use. And so
Right,
I would,
but you can always transfer to that when you're ready. If
sure.
if money is a consideration, and it should be,
Mm,
then start with the free one.
yeah. Okay, great. Anything else, Stephen?
Nope.
Okay,
Okay,
3
yay,
cheers. Yay. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Scott Baker again says the first and second episodes of Fantastic Journey were awesome.
Mhm.
Mind-blowing concepts. I thought the ship had dwindled from there, became repetitive.
Yes.
Every episode is on YouTube.
Wow, that's great. Well, thank you for that, Scott. I mean, the thing about a lot of shows that start with an interesting premise and then go downhill is there's usually two reasons for that. Either the network is really interfering a lot in terms of what the stories are, because a lot of the network executives don't understand science fiction, and so they'll really try to make things stupid. The other thing that happens is often people will pitch a concept that you can make work for like 1 or 2 episodes, and then it's just like, what do we do now? And that's a problem. You really, when you're thinking up a show, you really have to come up with something that has what's called legs, where you can have a story that'll go for year after year. Otherwise, it's just going to run out of steam very, very quickly. So yeah, so great. So let's see. So Carol, you're next on my screen.
Hi, nice to see you all.
Yeah, you
It's
too.
great to see you. Let's see, what did I want to tell you? Yeah, I encountered as I've said, it was always not quite easy for me to get theatrical managers and agents in New York and here.
Mhm.
Very hard to find someone literary, very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I encountered a manager at American Film Market in November, and she said, I sent her 5 of my synopses and all different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she really liked them, and she said, let's talk on Friday. So we spoke on Friday, and look what I got.
Wow, look at that.
Wow.
Huh.
Oh my
Contract.
gosh.
Wow,
Okay.
congratulations. 3 cheers.
Congratulations. Good for you.
That's great. Wow.
I'm going to be very shy and still like go over it and make sure everything's what I want. But is there any? I'm going to read it. I just got it, so it's kind of exciting. I'm going to read it tonight. Do that. And I think one of the reasons she took me on Small World is because I was at a commercial agency talent booth for years, and I booked a lot.
Uh-huh.
And one of the voiceover lady there is now at her company, her
Right.
management company.
Right.
So there's a possibility that Carol's a good actress and a nice person, go with her.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. But at least she didn't say she's a bank robber.
Yes. Now,
so good start. But is there anything in the contract beforehand I should look for? Because I know theatrical contracts. I know nothing about literary contracts.
so this is specifically for a literary agent, correct?
Yes.
Be careful about the term of the contract. In other words, if it's more than like 6 months to a year, no. I mean, in SAG with acting agents, they say that if an acting agent doesn't get you work within 90 minutes, 90 days, you can sever with them. But so the term of the contract, make sure it's comfortable for you. 6 months to a year, I would say. And just see what else jumps out at you. I wouldn't worry too much about it, because the main question with any agent is, can they get you work? If they can't get you work, there's no point. And if they can get you work, then you're earning money, and that's what all this is about. So, so yeah, I wouldn't be too crazy about it.
But you would want cutoff dates. The guild always says if you haven't gotten any work in X number of days, then you can automatically walk away.
But
it's 90 days for actors. Yeah.
The main thing to look for, and it probably won't be there, is if they say if there's a project they took out, even if it sells after you sever with them, they can commission it. That's the problem. And so don't say yes to that.
I would see it you think I could recognize it in the fine print?
Yeah. I mean, it probably won't say that. Okay. Usually what they do say is, if a ball is in play, like let's say for a moment that Universal, they've submitted the script to Universal and you sever with them, they've got like 3 months to close that deal. In other words, that's appropriate if they initiated the deal. It's sure. Appropriate for them. Now, another thing I always did with my people was whether or not they got me the deal, I let them commission if it was film and TV. Okay. But that was just me. And I don't think they commissioned residuals, if I remember correctly. So yeah, but again, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Just
Okay, all
Just-
right.
If anything twigs for you, then you can call the union
or us,
or us.
yeah,
If that's your reading, something seems odd.
yeah.
The
It should be
and
fine. It should be
it's-
fine. If
But
you're right.
it's, yeah, sometimes it's challenging
fine.
because things sound bad, but they're the opposite of what you think you're reading because it's a contract.
Yes.
So,
It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
And thank you for being supportive through all this. It's really
sure.
Of course.
very fascinating, and I'm so appreciative. And I'm also open for table reads. John, I wrote
Great.
you a chat.
Terrific.
So I'm open for table reads. I'd love to. And what do they
Great.
say in Yiddish? Cholishing.
Yes, exactly.
All
Well,
right.
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
3 cheers.
God bless you all. Thank you for being
Yay.
here for me.
You bet. 3 cheers. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
You got a bunch.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, this is David, this is They Live. For those who don't know, the John Carpenter film. It's great. It's a really great film, and I highly recommend it. And if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's really worth it.
You got a 4K
Yes.
DVD
Yeah,
player?
yeah, of course. It's a 4K 3D player.
No, that's the player, not the TV.
I've got both.
Wow, nicely done.
Yes, it's very, very, very cool.
Open a drive-in.
Yeah, well, you can come over when the pandemic's over. So great.
Sign me up.
Yeah, so is there a question, David?
Protector Enforcer 33888 says, why no season 3 of Space Command?
Well, there will be. There will be. I mean, the point is that we want to get, I mean, we're moving forward, absolutely. There'll be, all this stuff is going to go as long as we can make it go. Absolutely.
Send us a whole bunch of money and you'll get it really fast.
Yes, exactly. We're still selling shares in Space Command.
Yeah.
So, okay, but great, terrific. So let's see. Next on my screen is Vince. If you want to take your turn, Vince, it's good to see you.
Oh, you're muted.
We can't hear you yet.
Can you unmute?
Let's see.
It says
How about now?
There we go. Yeah, we can hear you now. Great.
Yeah, I've been working on the hospital scene for Space Command.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just working, waiting on some new some feedback and some new footage.
Great.
I guess right now is I'm at a downtime. What can I be working on, or at least what can I be researching in order to get ready for upcoming shots?
Well, there's a lot of stuff coming up. I mean, there's Eyes, Dornevin's Eyes. There's the bridge shots, the Paladin Bridge on 103. All sorts of stuff.
That's really the question that asked me,
Yeah.
in a phone call.
Yeah, but
I'll just that.
but we can coordinate that. Now I see that your name, it says Vincent Glazer III. I hope that means that you've cloned yourself twice and that we've got 3 of you to do visual effects, because we certainly need that. But but it's good to see you, Vince. And Vince has been doing visual effects for us. He's been doing a great job, and we're very, very grateful, and we look forward to much more. Hey, what you might want to do, you and David will talk, and you and David and I will talk, but the more you let us know what skills you want to acquire, what you want to be doing. Obviously, spaceship shots, 3D modeling, putting characters realistically into a physical space. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's sort of also what you want to do and what makes sense. So these are all conversations we can have. I mean, the cool thing about Space Command is there's so much in terms of visual effects to be done, so but we can definitely have that conversation, Vince. So anything else for now?
That's the cool thing about
Yes,
it.
that's the cool thing about it. It's great. Well, the first hour has 900 visual effects shots. The second hour has 900, and the third will have less, thank God. And but then we get, after that, after we shoot Forgiveness, we move into the Great Solar War, and that one's going to be another monster. But
it's quite ambitious.
yes, but ambition is what's great about it, So I'm glad that we are ambitious, and
I'm not critiquing. I'm just reporting the news.
yes, and exactly, yes. And okay. Anything else, Vince?
No, that's it.
Yay, Vince! 3 cheers! Excellent. And you look very realistic. So you don't look CG at all. So David, is there another question?
Nice to see you, Vince.
Yeah. Yay.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah. Another question, David?
Yes. Gilenda is also hip-hopping on the vacation Where Would You Go, saying because you're wearing a chunk of Mars after all.
Yes, this little necklace has pieces of Mars. There are actually, when meteors hit Mars at enough of a speed, it sends chunks of the Martian soil off into escape velocity, and some of them drift to Earth. And the way they know it's from Mars is that there are bubbles within the rocks, and when they open those bubbles up, it has the atmosphere of Mars. So I actually have little tiny pieces of the Martian soil in this little necklace. So yes. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Mars. It was so incredible the other day to see video from Mars. We'd never seen that on any of the Martian rovers previously, and to see the landing with video and to see the 360-degree view and all of those things is. I mean, you can click on live on the images from Mars now, which is just spectacular. So so I highly recommend that, and I think Elon Musk is going to get people there in the next few years. He's very, very, very serious about it. So and the fact that briefly he was the world's richest man is just so out of Heinlein. The world's richest man financing a mission to Mars or a settlement on Mars, that's just perfect. It's the 1950s all over again. So so let's see, next on my screen is Brian. Why don't you go for it, Brian?
Sure. Hello, Brian Hassick, filmmaker, and right now just full-time screenwriting. I'm trying to get a couple of things done for the 2 contests in the next month, and then after that, hopefully some more Space Command.
Great. Terrific. Well, thanks. So
don't need anything at the moment, just here to learn and hang out.
Cool. Well, 3 cheers.
Yeah,
Yay.
Good for you for plugging away and setting yourself deadlines with content.
Yes.
That's really important. So good for you.
It's the hardest thing for me to do, but I'm actually making some progress, so I'm happy about that.
Oh, good. And for those who don't know, I'm writing a new book called Greenlighting Yourself. That's a lot about how you build a career as a writer, actor, director, producer in film, TV, etc. And I have several chapters that I've never seen in a book on how to have a career in Hollywood, including working for yourself and how to schedule yourself so that, you know, and finishing things, and also and how to, you know, deal with finances, and just a bunch of stuff that these kind of books don't normally go into. And I'm using examples of, you know, Guillermo del Toro and Ray Bradbury and various people I've known and Rod Serling, of course, in terms of how they portioned out their time in a given day, because that's the big challenge for a writer, which is you wake up and whether you do anything or whether you do something is up to you. And that there's ways that you can really kind of put yourself within a discipline that that makes it a lot easier. So anything else?
And I do think about that title, that's kind of all you need, is just getting that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't wait for someone else to do what you want to do.
Right.
One thing about Steven's script, who's dropped out of the meeting here, but I took a glance at it. I didn't want to say anything when he was on, but it needs a great deal of work and a number of aspects, not just formatting. But one thing I really liked about it is that he did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's all it takes, and then you start learning.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, anybody who can start and get through a first draft.
Yes.
You know, whether it's a vomit draft or whatever you call
it. Yes.
To get through to that's a major accomplishment for anyone.
Well, I had
a friend who was great at that. He knocked out a 90-page, 100-page script in about 3 weeks out of a book he made. But then he did no work selling it and left LA.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, again, I'll give you 2 pieces of advice just right now. I was talking to my friend Ian McCaig yesterday. He's one of the genius character designers of Hollywood. He designed Darth Maul and Queen Amidala and Rey in The Force Awakens and stuff in Harry Potter and on and on. And he's writing short stories. And I said, you know, one of my sayings is anything worth doing is worth doing badly, because most people are so worried that they're going to fuck it up and fail and not be great right out of the gate that they don't start. And so it's fine to start and just be terrible at it and get better and get better and get better. You know, the other thing is, anything you want to learn, look at who has succeeded at that thing and learn from them. Because most people don't discern when they're getting advice from people who don't know what they're talking about. And as a result, they take all this advice that's total crap. And a lot of the screenwriting books, for instance, are written by people who tried to sell screenplays and failed. Well, that doesn't mean necessarily that their advice will be wrong, but it certainly is not as good as the advice you'd get from someone who's, you know, a master at it. And so in my career, what made my career work as well as it has is that I was learning from Rod Serling and Ray Bradbury and Guillermo del Toro. And those guys had a radically different way of doing things than, you know, your average guy who doesn't succeed. So, you know, anything else, Brian?
No, and yeah, that's probably why I get so much out of this, and specifically some of the things you said is you're basically doing what I want to do, sci-fi and eventually show running. So.
Yes. And well, one thing that's really fun, and this is why you're in a great position, Brian, as we all are, is that when I started in the industry back in the 70s, you needed a studio or a network, and you even needed a publishing house. If you were going to reach out, get your work out to an audience, you needed them. And to make any film would cost millions of dollars just because everything was so expensive. But now it's so accessible because of the internet and because of laptop computers and cameras in our phones and all of this stuff that it's just
all the excuses have been eliminated.
Yes,
you know?
yes. So the main point is just make something and make sure you put it out. Even if you put it out on the internet, anything you do, you know, amazing things can happen. You know, I'm getting paid money from my YouTube channel just because of the ads, you know, and it's like, that's like free money because that was not why I started that channel, but I don't mind getting it, certainly. And, you know, so and some people used to say, well, you know, their podcasts would just generate beer money. I could buy a lot of beer for the amount of money that YouTube is sending me. I can't buy a Tesla with it, but I can certainly, you know, pay a few bills. So
now, that would be an interesting story, by the way. You know, somebody who was full of excuses, and other people are like shutting down those excuses one after another. And when they finally run out of excuses, they disappear because that's all they were.
Yeah, that's funny. That's very funny. So So anything else, Brian?
That's it. Thanks.
Yay! 3 cheers. So, David, another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Indeed. So there is I'll tell you 3 things in a row. It's all part of one thing.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, would you play a Doctor Who in the show?
What?
Design your own outfit with lapels, fedora, long scarf, World War II trench coat, and you as Doctor Who would be really cool. What boots would you choose? And you would be a great Doctor Who. I'd watch for sure. So this is trending now.
And who's asking this?
3 different people: Protector,
wow.
Enforcer, and Thinking Face, and Scott Baker.
Well, that's an interesting question that I must admit I've never been asked before. Well, of course, I'm a fan of Doctor Who, and my favorite Doctor Who is Tom Baker, because that's the one I watched in my early adulthood. And I actually met him, and that was really, really great. We went to a convention way back when, and he was there giving a talk.
Accent is impeccable.
Yeah. What, Dave?
Your British accent is impeccable.
Oh, yes, it is. I won't do it right now, but I will do it at some point. And but also Jerry Davis, who created the Cybermen, was a very good friend of ours and a very dear soul. In terms of my outfit, that's a really interesting question. I would have to give that some thought. Obviously, you know, Tom Baker's costume was terrific. I would definitely lean toward the more whimsical. But I definitely see where, interestingly enough, as a little aside, Neil Gaiman actually recommended me to the Doctor Who people to write for the show a few years ago, and nothing came of that, sadly. But it's something I would have very much liked to have done. And you know, I think the Doctor Who has many brilliant things in it, and I really like it a lot. So
just adding here now. They're adding here now. What about Elaine as Doctor Who?
Well, yes, of course. She's but she would be far subtler than I would be,
and far more concerned about copyright.
That Neil Gaiman recommendation is something special. I mean, he wrote some pretty great Doctor Who episodes.
Well, yeah, and but the other part of that is that one of the things that's fun about Doctor Who, there's several things. The way they regenerate doctors to change actors is phenomenal. And also there are a lot of audio adventures of Doctor Who, and the way those came about, because I actually had lunch with the guy in charge of that, was it started with fans making their own bootleg, unauthorized audio adventures of Doctor Who, and they were so good that they reached out to the BBC, and the BBC said, yeah, we'll license this. And so it became Big Finish, and now they regularly do all these wonderful audio adventures with the actors who played Doctor Who. In fact, I have several of the early bootlegs. And but also another thing that's really cool is the fact that the early episodes of Doctor Who, many of them were lost episodes, and they found some of them in film prints that had been sent to the British colonies, basically, around the world back in the 60s. They would be in Australia, or the former colonies, or whatever. And then some of them, they would just find the audio track, and they would then animate them based on the stills they had. And so they've been very creative, and they've also done digital work to make all of these Doctor Who episodes look better. So I very much admire what they've done, and I think it's a great show, and I'm always rooting for it. So yeah, but I think me being a Doctor Who, or Elaine being a Doctor Who, or both of us, two-headed Doctor Who would be a lot of fun. And so thanks for the suggestion.
Here are a few things. There's a model kit that the British company Airfix put out.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
You go.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the Doctor Who technical manual.
Well, there you are.
Sometime in the 80s.
Yes.
And the first 50 years, Doctor Who, The Vault.
Wow. Well, there you are.
They're great books that, I don't know, probably somebody has read. I haven't.
Yes, and also Douglas Adams, who created Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, was a writer, a story editor on Doctor Who, and he actually wrote a storyline for Doctor Who that he then basically took elements of for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So it's interesting how there's kind of a bleed through. And I met Douglas Adams as well. We were both guests on a science fiction interview show called Hour 25 many years ago, and he was, again, charming and brilliant and quite amazing. So, okay, well, thank you, Dave. Thank you for that. So I guess next on the screen is Robert Pincus. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. So I'm wearing this hat.
No.
I'm having some heavy duty skin work. So it's a major hassle. It's all sun damage. So that's what I'm not trying to be cool.
Okay.
So last time, do you remember I told you I had this idea, a science fiction?
Yes.
Called Bliss.
Right.
Did you notice a movie came out called Bliss?
Yes. Fast work.
Hayek and Owen Wilson.
Yes.
They called it science fiction, so I streamed it. It was nice. It's a nice indie movie.
Cool.
It kind of it doesn't carry through. But it's really a nice movie. So anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. And mine's totally different. Mine is more science fiction. And I just wanted to mention that. I just wanted to check in. I have to learn a lot about AI for this.
Cool.
So it's gonna slow me down a bit, but I think it could be cool.
Yeah, David Bartlett's calling.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay.
And, still working on the comedy. Made a couple of changes, and it's better.
Cool. That's great.
So
So was this you need?
Yeah.
Crazy day on in markets.
Yes.
I don't. We don't follow that. Took a big hit today, but it's cool. I'm in good shape.
Okay. Good. So, anything else you need, Bob?
No. Eventually, maybe I'll talk to you again about information on Mars. I saw a lot of those images.
Yes. Phenomenal.
Video. Really nice video from there.
Yeah. Amazing.
I don't want to go there. It looks horrible, but it's so cool to see.
It's a really interesting planet, but it'll be extremely difficult for people to live there. I liken it to trying to live underwater, except that it has radiation, but but the fact that it had an Earth-like atmosphere and Earth-like atmospheric pressure 3 billion years ago, the likelihood that there was life on the planet back then is very, very high, and it's very, very possible that there could be life still, in the water that's underground in the cave.
That's what I was going to say. What they find beneath the surface.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Jeff Bezos wants to go there. Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I wish Jeff Bezos would just get some good produce at Whole Foods.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different conversation.
He should transform American agriculture. He's got the outlet for it.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. But great. But terrific.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yay. 3 cheers. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Indeed. Where would you go for soundtrack, sound, and music Is it who you know or an agency? I write new agey, dreamy music if you need any for your production. This is Kevin Scott, sorry.
Well, for Space Command, David Raiklin is our composer. But one can always put out an email to the table with a link to one's music, and people can click on it and check it out. The main thing is, you know, getting people to listen to it, and because again, there's a lot that can happen in that regard. So yeah, but it's but we, you know, we try to listen to composers' work as best we can given our schedule.
Well,
so
one thing that's extremely helpful for filmmakers is if you marry
the music
to a bit of drama.
Yes.
Because I've known some really good composers, but when you ask them to marry it to drama.
And what Elaine means is you score a scene. So in other words, you can take a scene from, it can be a pre-existing movie or TV show, just strip out the music and put in your own score. And again, you're not putting it out publicly. It's just as a sample that you can actually score to a dramatic moment. So that's what you're talking about. Yeah. So, okay, cool. So, so now David Bartlett.
Hey, can I just say one thing real quick?
Of course.
The guy who runs NVIDIA, Jensen Huang.
Yes.
They gave their company report, and wow, what's going on with AI is incredible.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I don't. That's why I said I got to learn more. I mean, in the near future, we're going to see things that are just blow your mind.
It's one thing I would suggest you do is you look up Elon Musk's comments on AI. He is
I know I
have. Yeah, he's extremely afraid of what could happen. The amazing thing is that, you know, the great writer on robots was Isaac Asimov, and he invented Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, which are basically that robots can't harm a human being. They can't, through inaction, allow a human being to be harmed, and they can protect themselves as long as it doesn't contradict the first 2 laws. But the AI that we're building has no such restrictions, so it can, you know, which is very foolish because, again, you know,
Stanley Kubrick, you know, he did such a great job 40 years ago.
Yes,
but
it's dangerous, definitely dangerous.
Elon Musk also has a project he's doing called Neuralink.
Yes,
where he wants to wire a human's brains into a computer.
Yeah, well, there you go. So we'll see how that works.
He has actual probes going in.
Yeah, I'm not.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yes, what could possibly go wrong?
I have a whole season of my comedies devoted to that.
Oh, great! Well, that's great.
Great material, you know.
That's great.
Anyway,
okay.
It's incredible what's going on.
It is. Well, thanks, Bob.
I'm gonna mute.
Yay! So, David Bartlett, do you want to take your turn since you passed earlier on?
Sure. Did we do the sci-fi just now?
We can't. Yeah, we did. I mean, Bob just put in a little comment about AI, but yeah, go for it.
I'm David Bartlett. I am a filmmaker, a teacher, a human rights activist, and a producer on Space Command.
Yay.
I'm also in charge of a number of areas like crowdfunding, Kickstarter campaign coming up soon. We'll hear all about that shortly. There is a very interesting table reading of Sweet Haven coming up here. And I also handle the casting for Space Command. I get all the things together for Mark and Elaine so they can make their choices, and I help them with the contracts and schedules. So if anyone's interested in being in Space Command, I can definitely help you with that. And let's see, about myself, I started making films when I was 10 years old. First, I saw the Battleship Potemkin and Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera on TV and decided I wanted to make films, and I was only 10. So I started doing films right away. I made my first film then. I made some more in high school. I did theater. I also did a lot of working in movie theaters before I moved to LA in 1980, which is a long time ago now. And I started working right away on some very big films as an intern. There's an intern question coming up here, Mark can answer. And also got a lot of very good advice, which led me to working at New World Pictures with Roger Corman and James Cameron, the production designer. I was one of his set carpenters. And then I started working on some sound design films like Pulp Fiction and Speed and Total Recall. And then I got out of that and got into my own films, and now I have 64 film festival awards.
Great.
So I've worked on the biggest movies of all time, cost-wise, which is Total Recall at the time was the most expensive film ever made, although they didn't really advertise that. They didn't want to let that out. They didn't want that to be part of the film promotion. And luckily it was, thanks to that, it was a very big success.
Mm-hmm.
And some very tiny films too. I did one film where the entire budget was $72. So I can give you a couple of tips on micro-budget filmmaking because sometimes I tell a story and sometimes I teach. And this will be a little bit of both.
Okay.
So the difficult things to get for free that people say are impossible are food, legal, and insurance. And I have gotten all three of those for free at different times.
Great.
I've never done it all at the same time.
Well,
But the key is to get people involved with the project that have those things and have them include that as part of their enthusiasm for your project. Now, the legal thing is very interesting. Elena and I love a particular fellow named Martin Lidvack. He is a retired legal person from one of the big agencies, and he has those coffee table book size books like this of contract boilerplates with a CD-ROM inside. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's another way to have data on a disk, like a floppy disk or a thumb drive. He probably has them online now, but you buy the book and he gives you all these contracts for free. They're actual legal documents he used to use at the studios, and you doctor them yourself. So here's my trick. Here's my trick for legal. You get someone involved that needs a contract. You send them one of these contracts that you doctor yourself and put their names in and all the terms that you want, which is the simple part. And then you give it to them. They give it to their lawyer. Their lawyer gives you notes back. You take the contract back, you just make the changes, wait 3 days, and give it back to them. And now you've got an actual legally binding contract that you didn't have to pay anything for.
Cool.
Now, I wouldn't do, SEC requirements for millions of dollars of offerings with that, but it does get you through deal memos, acting contracts that are smaller. I wouldn't do Tom Cruise's contract that way or Tom Hanks because there's a lot more involved with that, obviously, but it'll get you through a lot of scrapes when you're doing short films and independent low-budget features. So, with that said, the next thing is Space Command.
Yay!
So, Space Command loves people coming to help. They love people to paint and build things right now. In particular, I'm looking for a carpenter with skills. I also have quite a few tools in the studio. We have 2 studios side by side, and they are filling up with sets quickly, and we film in there, and we build things, and we're having a great time. So if you want a paid job for COVID-style money, which is small, we have those. We also have volunteer positions for people who want to come. And if you're an actor, the fastest way to become an actor in Space Command, and I am not kidding this, is to come and volunteer and get to know Mark and Elaine and then have the conversation. And if they like you, they'll end up writing something on the spot sometimes. Mark has actually literally done that. There are several people on the show now that have their large roles in the thing based on a competition that was run for the actors, and they won the right to play the parts, and one of them is the star of Space Command. So that'll be my next little segue to the competition for the Prophet.
Yay!
The Prophet is a role that will be played by ideally a woman young enough to look like she's under 18 years old, but you have to be at least 18. So you can play some person who has the ability to instill adoration on a high level of spirit and leadership, and people will take their nefarious ways and change them and become good people just because of the presence of this person who leads them. So we're looking for that person. And we're about to launch an international talent scout for that person. So anyone can submit to it that fits those parameters.
Yes.
So we will be giving details about that soon. It'll be on the website very shortly.
Yes.
Launching soon.
Yes.
So that's a little casting notice that's out there. Now, what else in Space Command? Anything else? I don't think so.
Just ramping up to shoot more and finishing what we've got in the can and moving ahead. And we're also doing Sweet Haven and the rest of this Showrunners Network and all that stuff. So locking down that
target shoot date
for
coming up on Space Command.
On Space Command, I keep saying late May, early June, but we have to see.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
It all depends on how soon the COVID frees up, because I think we have shot under COVID conditions. We had a compliance officer on the set. We've done that. Really difficult and stressful on everyone involved.
And expensive.
Since it's a little more expensive on our end. On the studio end, it's a lot more expensive, that's for sure. But on the low budget film end,
right.
Anyway, I mean, I'm a licensed COVID compliance officer myself, and I know what has to go into it and everything, and we want to do it correctly and all of that. So it's really the size of the shoot that we're about to do. It's really not compatible with that. So when we get a little further down the road with the virus being under more control and all that sort of thing, the inoculations and everything, it could change. But we're still talking about doing something in May or June.
Yeah.
Still, again, depends on what happens with the COVID. So,
but again, it's like, but I'm really glad. As I mentioned, I think a week ago, Elaine and I have gotten the first of the 2 shots, and we really want people to be able to participate safely, and we've done a very good job so far with our studio and everything to keep people safe and distanced and all of that. And but again, we just want to make sure that everyone is safe. And interestingly enough, this is more of a challenge with Sweet Haven than with Space Command, because Sweet Haven is a new show we're creating with Rockney O'Bannon, where everyone in the world under 60 dies, and the people 60 and above have to save the world, even though they can't reproduce. And that's a challenge because, of course, you've got an older cast in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, etc., and that's a very risky population. So we have to be doubly careful. Doubly careful.
We're about to do table reading with
yes.
everyone at home on their cameras.
Yes, a Zoom table read.
Different.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, but great. So, anything else, David?
Table.
Okay.
So, table email. I run that too. Table email. If you're not on it, let me know. Send me an email, davefilms@hotmail.com. This also applies to our Mr. Sci-Fi folks while we're on this Zoom combination call. And you can get on the table email and be on there with about 2,000 other people and offer your services to the table email and request help, as we run across a couple of folks tonight that have done that. Also can happen on that. I can help you. You need to have your full first and last name and something like @Gmail or not @Yahoo. That's the thing. We have emails that are not Yahoo. We can't do Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
There's some bug with that. I'm not sure what it is, but can't do it. So first and last name, not, Moo Pie 22 @ whatever. No nicknames.
Mm-hmm.
So numbers are fine. Symbols are fine too, but your full first and last name. Email me. I'll put it in the chat here. You can send me that there too. If you're on the email now and having troubles, you can also let me know about that. I can help with that too. And that's kind of the table email thing.
Cool. Okay, great. 3.
I guess I'm done.
Yay! 3 cheers. Do we have another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Oh yeah. So from Gregory Krug. Is there an episode of the Twilight Zone that stands out to you as having the biggest influence on writers, fans, etc.?
Wow, that's an interesting question. On writers, I would say that Walking Distance is the most influential because it was one of Rod Serling's most personal pieces and gorgeously written. Yeah, and it's about a man who goes back to the past of his childhood, and it's just a phenomenal piece of work. And every writer I know, that's their favorite episode, and it was Rod's favorite. In terms of the audience, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, The Gremlin on the Wing is certainly well remembered. Time Enough at Last, the one where Burgess Meredith is a bookworm who's the last man on Earth. There's many terrific episodes, many. Twilight Zone had and continues to have an amazing impact on people. And of course, I'm now working to do a new Rod Serling series, and that
your timing is good for that because CBS canceled
Jordan Peele.
The Twilight Zone.
Yes, I was very disappointed in that show, and I didn't see the last part of the first season, and I haven't seen any of the second season. So eventually, I'll catch up on it. But given how strong Get Out and Us were, I had higher hopes for that. I think that Jordan Peele probably has too many irons in the fire, because I think if he had given it his whole attention. People make a lot of mistakes when they try and do a new version of Twilight Zone. They assume it'll be easy. And it isn't easy. You can't just say, well, let's do an episode on wife beating or whatever. No, that's not how you make that show work. And, it's very, very specific. So anyway.
How did they get that particular look on the original series? Because you could turn on just about any episode, even if you haven't seen it before, and go, oh, I'm watching the Twilight Zone. You just know that look about it.
Yes. Well, first of all, the DP was George Clemens, and he was one of the great cinematographers ever. He'd been
Did he do the entire series?
He did most of them. He was on for all 5 seasons. When it was the hour shows, he traded off with another guy that was sort of working under him. But he had been a camera operator. He'd come up through movies like the Valentino Blood and Sand and Monsieur Verdoux, Chaplin, and the Reuben Mamillion, Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, he really was there for the golden age of Hollywood. He showed me a stack of signed photos from like Rudolph Valentino and Chaplin to him, signed to him Jean Harlow. And it was like
they
this
didn't
thing.
have that kind of continuity in the new series, or probably hardly any
No,
subsequent
no.
series.
But first of all, it's the most gorgeous black and white series ever made on television, but also that thing of the what's called Dutch angles. You know, those odd diagonal angles, the Twilight Zone. That they established that pretty much from the pilot on. You know, and that really kind of dictated the style. But the directors were incredibly inventive. Douglas Hayes, who directed Eye of the Beholder and The Howling Man and The After Hours and so forth, he was a very, very dear friend. And Buck Houghton, who was the producer of Twilight Zone the first 3 seasons, told me that casting directors is every bit as important as casting actors. And so if it was a very visually or technically challenging episode, he'd hire Doug Hayes. So because Eye of the Beholder certainly is that. And Richard Donner directed Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, and he went on to direct, you know, Superman and Lethal Weapon and all these. He became a big feature director. So the talent pool was spectacular, and they just really knew what they were doing. It's a gorgeous show. So yeah, absolutely. Let's see, who's next? Bill W., you're next. Go for it.
I'm Bill White, and let's see, I'm SAG. I studied at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. My agent died in New York. Anyway, I'm now here, and I wanted to. It's too bad Judith jumped off because my beloved life partner Carla and I just got a Yorkie puppy, and Mark, I'm afraid I'm very qualified in terms of age for safe haven. And so our energy level for taking care of an incredibly busy puppy. Anyway, we're getting through it. And we love it.
Great.
So I'm just dying. Let's see, I'm an actor. I'm extremely talented and completely unknown. I just dying to get in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take David up on volunteering to work on set whenever I've got my COVID shots.
Cool.
Let's see. What else about me? I just did a table read and I'm really happy with the results for my screenplay, which the working title is Rewrite. And I really like it now. I really like it. I'm not quite through tweaking it, but as you were saying, as was mentioned, starting a project, having a great idea, that's not worth nothing. It's finishing it.
Yes.
And that note from Ray Bradbury about scheduling your time. I got the Ray Bradbury audiobook of his book on writing. And it's
cool.
Absolutely wonderful. Very little of it is truly dated.
Yes.
And his enthusiasm.
Yes.
And what he tells you to find in yourself and, the structure.
Yes.
I don't know which author it was asked, do you wait for the inspiration or do you sit down every day and write? He said, well, I absolutely depend on the inspiration, but for it to show up, I have to sit down on a regular schedule.
Right. That's right.
So I'm getting a little tired of this COVID.
Yes, I think we all are.
Yeah.
So, but yes, but in terms of writing, yes, Ray was an amazing mentor, a phenomenal guy. And I knew him for over 10 years at the end of his life, and I'd go over there once a month and we'd just hang out and talk about life and art and career and everything.
Oh, man.
It was just great. And
I would love to just go to lunch, have an hour with the man.
Yeah.
His audiobook really works. I believe he reads it himself.
That's great. Yes. And another very good book about the writing life is Stephen King's On Writing. That's another very good book. But
that's available on as an audiobook too.
Sure.
You can find that on YouTube.
Yes. And but again, it is every writer I know who's successful has a writing discipline. Otherwise you can just drift and professional writing. The best advice I ever got about that was my mom had a boyfriend at one point who was a retired spy, and he was also a professional writer. And he said about writing, he said, an amateur can rely on inspiration, a professional needs discipline. And he was absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, yeah. And also another thing is funny. Sometimes a script will come very easily and it'll read really well. And other times it'll just be murder and it'll be really hard, and that can read equally well. So the difficulty of the process does not dictate the quality of the finished product. And also there are scripts that I've written in a week that were every bit as good as scripts that I've written in a year. You know,
Really?
so yeah. And it's just, you know, but the good part is Elaine and I both have the muscles to write incredibly quickly because we came up in television. We're also extremely good at multitasking because we were, like, for instance, in television, we were always juggling between not just multiple scripts on a given show, but multiple shows at the same time. And so that was a very, very good way to train.
And you have 2 terriers, which helps.
We do. And but you know, it's like, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anything else, Bill?
No, just that this Yorkie is, Carla calls him the Yorkosaurus.
Yes.
Doubled in size in the last month. Anyway, thank you very much, and I guess that's enough out of me.
Cool. Yay! 3 cheers.
I hadn't heard of the Bradbury book. What's it called?
It's called Zen and the Art of Writing.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks a lot, Mark. I gotta go, but thank you.
Okay. Bye, Robert. Good luck. Don't let the
talk to you next.
Yeah, don't let the AI get to you. But David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Indeed. We've got here from Scott Baker. Have you shopped around, in quotes, at the universities and trade schools for Space Command production interns? I'm thinking of that for a tech-laden project.
We have put out the word a bit. The challenge is that a few years ago, there was a lawsuit against Fox about internships because it was like unpaid internships. Fox had to pay out a whole bunch of money. And so it made a lot of people gun shy about interns because they didn't want to end up getting sued, you know. But interns are always welcome as long as, you know, they recognize that, you know, I mean, you know, Elaine and I taught classes for a number of years, and often we would trade our classes for interns working on, you know, Space Command or whatever, but we're not teaching right now because, you know, we just slammed between our creative projects at the moment, and COVID, of course. Yeah. So go ahead, David.
Universities, the private and the state ones, all have a lot of strict rules about that, and they can be dealt with.
Yeah.
But the New York Film Academy and the LA Film School can sometimes, people can become interested from that. The thing is that because they don't have real programs, they're really busy.
Yes.
The trick is to get them right when they're just out of film school looking for something. Now, I happen to have a line to NYFA, New York Film Academy, about that, and I've got 4 assistants, 2 of which are volunteers that came directly from NYFA, and 2 of them I hired after they volunteered because they're such quality people.
Great.
So I'm a big fan of that school and of LA Film School both.
Cool.
I think that if you can reach out to these schools and get a response to them, that'd be great. Right now, it's a much bigger challenge because
COVID.
the students aren't even in those schools.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. So, but I wouldn't give up because I've had a great, I shouldn't say a great track record with interns because it's a mixed bag.
Yes.
Frankly, but usually it's a great experience.
Yes.
So,
great. Cool. Well, thank you, David. So next on our screen is Mark Agushowitz, the mighty Mark Agushowitz. And so go for it.
Hello. All right. So I don't say, I'm just basically the same as everything that I've been saying over the weeks. My name's Mark. I'm an editor, still looking for work. Now I am starting to get a little worried, but COVID's doing this to people. So, but utilizing the time as best I can to finish my short film. Earl Smith, who's a table member, sent me the first round of the sound and music, and we still got some work to do on it, but it sounds good. It's great. It gave me some really good stuff. So I'm very, very positive about that. Once again, you know, it's just adding a whole new level to the film, and so I'm really happy with that. A project that I've been working on that I don't talk about very often, but I'm co-directing, called Drone. Because it's moving really slow, because our effects guy is moving really slow, and we're also slow in giving him money. So that can affect things as well. I took one of the when I had problems with my effects guy on my short film, we hired a guy all the way in India to do some effects. And so we've now hired him on this project, and he's coming through relatively fast. So I'm hoping that'll pick up the pace on that. And now we're looking for a music person, and I think I'm going to probably the next day or two reach out to Kevin Matthews, who's a table member, who I tried to work with once before, but certain things got in the way. So hopefully we can work together on this one. And as I've been saying week after week, I'm working on a website/podcast to kind of celebrate movies and unknown movies. Still looking for a name. I've had quite a few people send me suggestions, so I'm going to put a lot of those suggestions out to my friends on Facebook, see if anything stands out to anybody. Brian Hassick, who I think is here somewhere right now, he sent me a bunch earlier today. A couple that I like, so I'm going to include those. But I'm moving along at a pace now that I'm hoping that I can get the website up by the end of next month, and start recording some of my podcasts actually next month.
Cool.
I've been talking to the people I'm actually going to record. I got 3 definite yeses, and I reached out to a friend of mine who's connected with a really well-known animator. Well, I don't know how well-known he is, because who knows who the animators are, but he's worked on some really well-known projects. And he thinks he'll be willing to come on board as well. And then after I get like 5 or 6 on board, I'm going to start reaching out to the people who are on the Screen Forum. The only reason I haven't reached out to you yet, Mark, is because I didn't want it to sound like my new podcast was just a rehash of the old one when I started advertising it. So I definitely want to have you on, but I think I'm going to wait till I got about 5 or 6 under my belt, so we don't.
Cool.
Because people will sit there and say, "Oh, Mark Zicree." Well, he already interviewed Mark.
Yes,
Zicree,
been there, done that. Yeah.
But I definitely, because I'm really kind of curious to see what kind of unseen movie you would talk about.
Yes.
Because you got I don't know if it would be sci-fi or not sci-fi. It doesn't have to, but your library of stuff that you've mentioned on this, just on the Thursday nights, make me go, gee, I wonder what he'd want to talk about. That's going to be really cool.
There's a really interesting film. One of the leading film historians, particularly about the silent era, is a guy named Kevin Brownlow, who's British. He did a great documentary on silent films. It was a series called Hollywood. And but before that, he was a documentary filmmaker, and he decided with a pal of his to make a documentary called It Happened Here. That was a pseudo documentary if England had been conquered by the Nazis. And it took them 8 years to make it. And so between cuts, between shots, the actors change ages. And it's a remarkable film. It's a remarkable film. And he wrote a book about it. And I actually met him at Bradbury's house, interestingly enough, and he signed that book to me. But it's a really interesting alternative history done in a very realistic style. And he actually got real Nazis to play Nazis in his film, because he shot it in the early 60s. And it was very controversial at the time, but it's really fun, really interesting. And
What's the name of it?
It's called
Those are the actors you don't want saying, "What's my motivation?"
Right. Yeah. It's called It Happened Here, and it's a really interesting film, and so I recommend that.
Kevin Brownlow's book, The Parade's Gone By,
Yes.
is one of the best books I've ever read on Hollywood history.
Yes. Well, the
silent films, and it's not only in love with the silent film era, it really is careful about making sure it's very universally covered and very broadly, detailed, and there's tons of pictures. It's just an read.
Well, just like I did the Twilight Zone companion at the right time when all these people were still alive, except for Serling and Charles Beaumont. Kevin Brownlow was lucky to do that documentary series on the silent era just when there were a ton of those people still alive. And my professor at UCLA Film School, David Bradley, was one of the interviewers who worked on that project. And he talked about going to Paula Negri's house and interviewing her, and all these great stories of these silent era film stars like Gloria Swanson. It's a great documentary, and Colleen Moore, all these people who are still around, and it's great. You can find that documentary on YouTube for free. And it's narrated by James Mason, and it's really, outstanding in every way. So it's called it's called Hollywood. And if you type in Hollywood silent film documentary, you'll see a number of the episodes come up. Or if you type in silent film documentary James Mason, it'll come up. So just
I
going.
love James Mason.
Yes, yes.
And the other, what's the title of the alternative history?
It Happened Here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really great. And so
right.
Great. So next on.
I got more.
Oh, go for it, Mark Gushowitz.
Before you took over my.
Yeah, really. Okay. Sorry. I digress.
But that website's moving forward really strongly, and so then in order to kind of get my name more out there, I mean, I've got a pretty big fan base for my Talking Apes podcast that I used to do.
Great.
So I went on a podcast last week called Skywalk Through Neverland, talking all about the Muppets before the Muppet Show was released on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Skywalk Through Neverland, you can listen to it. It's just they talk about the Muppets again this week. That's not the one. It's the episode before that I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also they approached me about, can I write a weekly article on the Muppets, and I'm like, no, I don't have time for a weekly article, but I can write you a monthly article, but I don't want to do it on the Muppets because I would get tired of it really fast if I did it every month. So I pitched them that I would do the first one on the Muppets after they've been playing for about a month, because it's just too overwhelming how many people are talking about the Muppets right now. It'll just get lost. But I pitched them. I went to Disney Plus to kind of, check out the Muppet Show, and I'm noticing all these shows on Disney Plus that are just probably being totally ignored because people are watching all the newer stuff. There's a lot of stuff from the 60s and the 70s that I remember growing up on. And so I pitched to them in vein of what I'm doing on my website, that because they are a Star Wars Disney based podcast, and they talk more about Disney now, I think, that I would do what I'm doing on my website, but with the Disney stuff that's available on Disney Plus, and go back to the Herbie movies and the old Herbie movies, and movies like 20,000 Leagues and
Lovebug. Lovebug is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, that's
the one I'll be doing though will be Monte Carlo, because that was my introduction to Herbie, and then of course you got like an Oddball in King Arthur's Court and stuff like that.
But the spoiler alert on the Lovebug is that Herbie is in a race, and he gets cut in half, and he ends up finishing first and third. He gets these two different parts of the same
funny.
car.
That's funny. But go ahead.
I pitched that to them, and they were all gung ho about that. So I'll starting around the 15th of next month, I'll start having stuff up on them once a month.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to this because as I started revisiting movies for my own website, it's like kind of cool to kind of go back and have those memories about when you first started falling in love with movies, and when and what these movies mean to you and all that.
Yes.
So it's been a really cool experience. And then I'll end on this. The most depressing news of all is about 3 years ago, I went back to Connecticut and I went to visit the movie theater that I fell in love with movies at. I saw about 95% of my movies there, and it was a hull of a building, didn't show movies anymore. Literally, it was just sitting there, falling apart. And I just ran it by accident. I was looking for a picture of a marquee, so I thought I would look for what a picture of their marquee. And I just found out that the place that I fell in love with movies at is no longer in existence. They have torn it down.
Oh, that's terrible. That's such a shame.
They wiped those memories. Well, I mean, they're still inside me.
Yes, but no, the great movie palaces are wonderful.
About that for Mark. Here, I got on the wrong road to get on the I-5 coming back from the studio once, and ended up at the first CVS I could find. And I was like, this is a really weird looking CVS. It had this like Mayan kind of facade, the entrance and stuff. I'm like, what?
Wow.
I go inside, it was a movie theater.
Wow.
And what they had done was they had literally taken out the seats of the balcony and the seats on the floor and made the floor flat and put CVS walls inside, and you can look up through the ceiling of the CVS and see all the way up to the balcony and the ceiling and the archway of the old proscenium of the movie theater while you're inside it in a CVS.
Wow, that's weird. Yeah.
So weird. I'll get the name of it.
This theater, to me, not just because I grew up watching movies there, but because it was probably the greatest movie theater I've ever been in, because it was 13 screens.
each theater was at like 1,000 people at the least amount. Every screen was huge. And I mean, people don't know what it was like to go to movies, you know, way back when, because now we got these little dinky theaters with okay size screens, whereas the screens in this theater were like the IMAX size screens now.
Yeah.
And we would see like Aliens and all those movies on these screens. And so, yeah, it was kind of depressing to learn that. So
yeah.
I would share.
Yeah, and again, the great movie palaces. There are a few of those still remaining. I'm glad they restored the Lorena, and the American Cinematheque is at the Egyptian, and Grumman's Chinese is still there, and it was restored a few years ago. These are amazing places. And
the consortium that a friend of mine is a part of that was restoring all those classic movie palaces in downtown LA.
Yes,
Put several $1 million into the Los Angeles theater, which is one of the biggest. It rivals the Chinese theater for opulence. It's incredible inside there.
Yeah.
And the Dollar and the Orpheum and a few of the others down there.
Yeah. And
so here's a weird thing. A friend of mine was a movie buff in New York, knew what a certain building was when it was being torn down.
Yes.
And he went back with a cart and brought home several chunks of this building and sent me a small one.
Wow, look at that.
This piece here.
Wow.
Now it looks like just a chunk of a granite or a rock or concrete for those people on Mr. Sci-Fi who are not seeing this fascinating picture of this chunk of granite or concrete. Or this is a piece of the building where Edison first showed his movies publicly.
Wow. Well, there you go. You might want to write. You might want to write that on the piece so that when people find it, amidst the rubble or whatever, they know.
You know what? It's like your piece of Ray Bradbury's house.
Yes, but at least
you could show that to the Mr. Sci-Fi people.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's got it was a canary yellow house, and it's got some of the yellow on it. It's really something. So Mark Gushwitz, getting back to you, is there anything you need?
There is nothing that I need except for work, and I'm putting myself out there. So hopefully, that'll come along. Otherwise, at this point, no. But if anybody needs anything from me, feel free to go ahead and reach out. I do need a name for my website if you want to reach out with that. But but other than that, I'm available if anybody needs any help.
Yay! So I just have another name for yours, Mark. You can call it the Utterly Fabulous Show. So, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
They are lining up. We've got from Dr. Essex. Let's see. I'd love to write a Solar War episode. That's a Space Command episode for those of you out there with space powers being evolved during a micronova, a dust shell ejecta meets hemoglobin concept.
Well, go for it. I mean, it's there was a question a few weeks ago, will there be Space Command fan fiction? Why not? But it may or may not contradict something.
Do people have a chance at that?
No. At this point, Elaine and I are writing all of them, and so that's just the plan for now. With some of the other shows on the Showrunners Network, I mean, again, the problem with spec scripts is to find good scripts among all the millions of scripts being written is very difficult and very time consuming and very tiresome as a process. And so that's the challenge of it, but I love people's enthusiasm, and I'm not going to say don't write stuff, but on Space Command, Elaine and I have laid out the season, and we're cooking along on it. So, but thanks for that. So, Arena, you're next on my screen. Go for it.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good to see you, Mark and Elaine. How are you doing?
We're good.
Good. Thank you.
How's the atmosphere in LA? I'm kind of curious, now that the vaccination is on, and how's the industry doing?
It's great. Things are great. It's like springtime. I don't know. What would you say, Elaine?
Not quite. But
it's not quite there yet.
But people are feeling very good because it's the first time that the numbers have been going down.
Yes.
And so everyone knows to still be cautious, and you still have to, in terms of getting your set going, you still have to allow a lot of extra money to accommodate for COVID. But the feeling is hopeful. People are starting to breathe a little easier and to see the end of it.
Good. So I do have a question for you. One of the producers who reached out to me last month sent me a script for his feature-length film to read with the offer to direct it. And I read it, and it does require rewrites. So I'm kind of curious in this case because he already mentioned the possibility of writing another film for him. But I've never done anything like writing-wise for hire. So it's a new situation for me. So I'm kind of curious, and in this kind of a case, when you already have a writer attached to the project, and then let's say, on the top of it, and as a director, you're gonna have to do rewrites to make it actually producible. Because right now the script is not producible for the budget that there is. So what would be your advice in this kind of situation? Just curious.
Well, a lot of that depends on how much money the person has to make this film, whether or not once you create these changes, it would be something that would jazz you if the money is low. I mean, that you feel would be of value to your career or just emotionally.
Yeah, it's an ultra low budget, $500,000, yeah.
Well, so that's pretty low. I would go on the Writers Guild site and see, starting.
Well, but it's not if you're not in the Writers Guild.
Right? No, just to get approximates.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, well, but it's pretty high. It is pretty high there. But
well, what's the question? I'm sorry, Elaine. I just came back.
As a producer sent over script to direct, but it needs a lot of work.
Well, it depends on whether or not he's willing to pay you as a writer. Is he paying you as a director?
Yes, and because he already discussed possibly writing another feature for him, I'm pretty sure that in the next discussion, because I've sent him the notes on the script, most likely he's going to ask me to do the rewrites.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious because I've never dealt with the situation when there is another writer already attached.
Yes. Here's the way. Here's the way it works. First of all, Writers Guild is totally different from everything else. If it's not Writers Guild signatory, then all bets are off. I mean, people can So okay, so you can broach with him if he's willing to pay for you to rewrite the script. If he is, great. If he isn't, many times directors will do a free rewrite just so they have a script that they can shoot and not be embarrassed by. In that case, you would put your name and the other writer's name on the writing credit. And that's how it works. When it's Writers Guild, that's totally different. The Writers Guild will review the credits and look at the different drafts and determine what the writing credits are. They usually give preference to the initial writer, and Writers Guild rates apply. So in other words, you can't pay less than Writers Guild minimum, but that has nothing to do with if you're not in the Writers Guild. And but the real question with anything like this is, what do you actually want? And if you say, well, I want a directed by credit on a good film, then that has to take precedence. And but the good part is that as a director, you have a lot of control over what's going to be the script, and so that's a good thing.
But one thing before you waste time is to just make sure that how you see the movie really is how he would like to see the movie.
Yes.
I was put on a project as a friend. I was just writing my concerns about another person's treatment.
Yes.
And I said, here are my concerns about this treatment. This is what I think you need to get him to do.
Right.
And it became quickly evident because I sat down with him.
This guy wasn't going to do it.
That this fellow wasn't very nice man, but was not capable of doing any of these changes. And then I looked to the producers and I said, after we all had that meeting and it became clear that he couldn't make these changes, I said, I have some concerns. And what was important there is when I expressed my concerns, we were all on the same page. And that would be the only thing that would really make it worth it.
Yes.
If you're not on the same page, you don't want a little mini war. You don't want to waste your time. They want you as a director. Just make sure that you're on the same page, you and the producer. And then, yes, you can just share credit.
Yeah. So that's what I would suggest. Yeah.
And I'm curious because if that would be the case, the rewrites will be pretty major for me to do it completely for free.
Yes.
So I'm curious, and in this kind of a situation when obviously I'm not in guild and he's not connected to guild either, what would be is there like any kind of like a industry standard percentage from the budget that normally a writer would charge?
Again, some people pay almost nothing for a script. Some people pay thousands of dollars. I mean, it's just what you really should do is figure out what you want and talk to him and see what he's willing to pay and strike a deal. I mean, but again, a lot of people, you want to be able to live while you're doing the project. You want to be able to financially pay your bills. But the thing of it is that, I mean, for me, issues of control are more important to me than a big payday. So I want to make sure that, like, for instance, when I did that Star Trek episode with George Takei, I had it contractually that I had final cut. Nobody could fuck with it. No one could mess with it. What was going to get out to the audience was going to be exactly what Elaine and I wanted it to be. And those kind of issues. And the reason I'm doing Space Command and the Showrunners Network and all these other things is because I have total control. And so good, bad, or indifferent, the end product is what I want, And but for you, it's like, okay, what do I want? What do I need? What works for me? I mean, again, who's going to have the final cut? What's the plan once the movie's done? Where's it going? How's it being distributed? I mean, again, you just have to lay out what you want it to be.
You want as much of that money on the screen as possible.
Yes.
However, you have to think through, how long will this rewrite take me, and what can I afford?
That's another question from your experience when usually, like, in a situation of this director in a position, to do additional rewrites, how much time could it take? I mean, because from my experience on my own film, the fastest that I have written was 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I know, if I really know what I'm doing, I can do it fairly quickly. But this is something different because, it's not my personal project. So in a sense, you kind of have to get in in this case, producer's head, because it's his idea, his concept, and he hired the writer to write the script for him. And I think that's why there is an issue with the script that I see, that there is a disconnect.
Right.
And that's the challenge, because I've never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And from your experience, when you do it for hire for somebody else, what's the process for you basically? And usually, like, how much time usually does it take for you?
It will take,
to accomplish it?
Everything will always take longer than you hope it will. But the main thing is, in order for it to work, it has to work for you. The story has to work for you. You have to find your way into it. If you cannot find a resonance, if you cannot make it work, if you cannot come to a meeting of the minds with the producer where it will be a draft that works for you, you cannot take the job, because you won't be able to direct the script, because the script will be false. You have to find a truth, an emotional truth. And if you can't, I mean, that was a big thing I insisted upon on every show I was on staff on, which is I don't want to be rewritten. I'm willing to do a number of drafts until we all like it, but I don't want anyone else to tamper with what I've written. And even when I was a story editor, they gave me that respect, because again, if it has my name on it, it has my name on it. I want it to represent what I did. So before you even take you need to agree with the producer as to what the script will be, what the story will be. And then just, but again, it's like, the real question is, how long will it take you to write the script? It'll take you until you shoot the script, basically, because you'll be rewriting it on the day. You'll be rewriting it in post also. You'll be adding stuff. I mean, Dave and I are still adding like ADR and making scenes out of pre-existing footage that didn't exist, simply because you say, oh, well, wait a minute, we never explained that thing. Okay. And then bang, you're just, cobbling it together. So the final rewrite on any script is the edit. I mean, the edit of the film. So
ironically, with this film, he also wants me to edit it.
That's good. That's good.
So it's technically kind of the creative control is pretty much given into my hands in that case. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but you can also get it contractually, and I would if I were you, if you can. But also, let's say if you're writing and editing and directing, it's not unreasonable to take 10% off the top of the budget. So in other words, if it's a $500,000 budget and you're getting 50,000, that's not inappropriate. Okay. If
that gives me an idea. Yeah. That's
yeah,
good. Mhm.
yeah. On the other hand, if he says, wait a minute, whoa, what are you doing here? You have to decide what you want and what you'll settle for. Okay. So in other words, if he says, well, I can't do 50K, but I can do 20, then you kind of crunch it and you see if that makes sense to you. I mean, you basically work out.
Because that's probably at least 1 year of work, I'm assuming.
No, not necessarily. It could be 1 weekend of work, depending on if you're Roger Corman or not.
No, I mean through the whole thing. Like
yes.
Writing, production, post-production.
It could be. It could be. I think $50,000 on a $500,000 movie is fair, frankly. But so I would have those conversations before you sign any agreement. Frankly, but make sure that he understands the direction you want to take it and he agrees with that, because I promise you, it's impossible to write a script. I mean, you can do it, but then it just rings false if you don't believe what you're writing. It really does, and it makes it much, much harder all down the road. So that's my thought about that.
And if you can't do the upfront, look toward back end points.
No, I mean, you want to get paid money. You want to get
up front, but I mean,
no, but back end points. When they say you'll get it in the back end, they mean that literally. So I never.
You're never gonna get it.
Yeah, I mean, I would never count on that at all. I mean, it's like bend over. It's. I think it's really important. My rule in my work is if I'm hired by a studio or a network, an established one, it's a step deal, and I get paid for my rate. If it's anyone who isn't in the studio or network world, I get paid the entire amount upfront. And that's just because I don't want to have to worry if I'm going to get paid. Now, you have to be established to a certain degree to be able to insist on that. But that's what I always insist on if it's not an established entity, simply because I don't want to worry that I'm going to get screwed financially, So, but that's just me. So anything else, Irina?
No. That was the big question, something new, never had to deal with this. So this definitely helps. Yeah.
Okay, great. 3 cheers. Yay. So David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Indeed. Mark Longo says, what place does humor have in Space Command?
A lot. Mainly it's Elaine writing humor, and her humor is funny. I mean, we have humor and it can be there's a range. So, for instance, some of the humor is very straightforward. Other of the humor is kind of acerbic, like the way you're writing Matt, Cameron.
Yes.
But it's very important because we have a lot of tragedy in the show. Death and loss and all those things, and you want to have a counterweight of humor as well. It's never an overt comedy, but it does have humor.
Well, it's human.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's human.
Well, just like real life.
Like
real life has humor.
Yeah, it's not this. Some shows get pretty grim, but which is okay, except that's not how people are. If you go through a day, there's always going to be a few jokes.
Yeah, but Elaine is writing Matt Kemmer very differently than I would, but I like what she's doing with it, which is that acerbic kind of. But fortunately, Aaron Gaffey is really good with that. He totally gets what you're doing, and it really works, and it's really good.
His timing is amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun, really, really fun. Another winner of the.
The Detroit line gets a laugh at
every single time. Yes. That's a very funny joke. But go ahead. Yes, David.
Aaron Gaffey's a great success story for Space Command too. He started out auditioning and getting the part a number of years ago.
Yes.
He kept being told he was going to shoot his scenes, and they were planned.
Yes.
And he's coming to Comic-Cons. He was on panels as Comic-Cons. We started calling him poor Aaron Gaffey because he was never shooting his scene.
Right.
He kept being on the panels, and then finally he did shoot something, and now we can call him Aaron Gaffey again, and he's actually on IMDb and everything else.
It's very exciting. Yeah, he's terrific. And he's in the pandemic episode we did, and he'll be in many episodes coming up. So great. So, okay, cool. So let's see. So Earl, I guess you're next on my screen.
Hello, everyone. Earl F. Smith, composer, sound editor, sound designer. Just here to say hi.
Great.
I'm not sure what Marco Gutschewitz said.
He said you're a fine fellow.
First, draft. Did I get your name right? Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did.
Awesome.
close enough. I only said good things.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He was very good.
I saw his email. I download it later and make the changes. And I think all the changes that were requested are actually, very awesome. So this weekend I'm gonna be recording my daughter strings.
Great.
I'm gonna write a 3-part harmony with violin, first, second, and probably 5th position on violin for her.
Mm-hmm.
Record it here at my studio and do the rest of this stuff for Mark. And then I have another short film lined up that I've already done the sound design to, 90% of it. And then I'm gonna score that one.
Okay.
That's about it for me.
Cool. Well, 3 cheers. Yay. Excellent. So
Thanks for joining in.
Yay. Is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David Bartlett?
Yes. Charlotte I.O. says, have you ever seen a movie, A Space Program Mission to Mars by Sachs?
Mission to Mars. Yes, I think I have. I'd have to check the credits because there were a number of Mars kind of like science fiction movies set on Mars. There was like Red Planet, and then there was, I think it was Mission to Mars. Yeah, I mean there are only a very few good movies set on Mars. One, of course, is The Martian, the Matt Damon film, and also there's a movie called Robinson Crusoe on Mars from the '60s that I like very much, and I got to know the leads and the writer on that film, and it's a lot of fun. Yes, exactly. That's another film that most people don't know about, but it's really, really fun. And Adam West is in it as well, and it's a terrific thing. And so yeah.
I've got a lot of questions here. Do you want to do another one?
Yes.
Okay, so this is challenging. Scott Baker says, self-determination, free will is perhaps the highest value of both liberalism and true conservatism.
Mm-hmm.
Which work of fiction, sci-fi or otherwise, do you feel makes the best case for that value?
Wow, that's a hard one.
Self-determination, free will.
The Martian Chronicles is pretty good in that regard because it's really about people finding their way to a truth of who and what they are. It's a really good book. Beyond that, there's all this wacky Heinlein stuff, but I wouldn't recommend him. He's so strange. I mean, I love his juveniles. Have Spacesuit Will Travel, Citizen of the Galaxy. Those are great books. But which one?
What was it? Podkane? Is that
Podkane of Mars? Yeah, that's a good book until the ending, and then it kind of goes south. But
Been too long. Don't recall.
What, David? I'm sorry.
Stranger in a Strange Land. That's one of my favorite books of any book.
Yeah, I haven't read it since I was a teenager, so I reserve judgment. I liked it quite a lot when I was a teenager. Yes, Moon is the Harsh Mistress. I like his juvenile work better than his adult work simply because he's so politically odd. But yes, but I can give that more thought. But and then Canticle for Leibowitz, of course, you might have it in there as well. Free will is very much an issue in science fiction at large. Because these are things that these writers were grappling with: the nature of reality, the nature of how much we can affect our lives. Philip K. Dick, of course, is a great one for that stuff. So I would recommend all of that. So let's see. So Yolan, you're next if you wanna go. Jolan Crofts. Oh, are you there? Oh, Jolan, are you there? No, I just see a still picture. So Michelle, do you wanna? Oh, there she goes. Oh, there you are. Okay, good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Now we can hear you.
Finally, okay.
Okay. Hi, guys. I hope everyone's doing great. As usual, sorry, I had to be on a phone call, so I had to drop off for about an hour.
Huh.
And it's always good to be here. It's always good to hear all of you. Thanks to Elaine and Mark, I started doing some producing, and I was I was a script supervisor for a web series, and I've done some of my work with help of the table people. Now we have started a streaming network for independent filmmakers. Think of it as Netflix for independent filmmakers.
Oh, you're frozen. Oh. Hello? We've lost you. You've frozen. Can you hear me? Oop.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay, you're back. You're back.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Yes. We just lost you for a minute. It's like you went into a fugue state or something.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with the internet connection here.
Okay.
So we started the Flick Fest, which is a streaming network for independent filmmakers. If I repeat myself, I'm sorry. I'll put it in the submission is free, and we have a contest for $5,000, $2,500, and $1,000. So please, tell your friends and stream your films, because think of it as free marketing and free advertisement for your films. So I really would love to see all of your films, and I hope this is the way I can contribute to independent filmmakers, because I've been working with film festivals for a couple of years, Burbank Film Festival and the Social Cinema Film Festival, and some other Dances with Films. And I noticed that it's very hard. It's very hard for independent filmmakers to get their films noticed by anybody. And I thought, what can I do to help them? At the end of the day, you really want to do something productive to help other people. I've reached that point in my life where I want my work to have some good impact on a community. And I've chosen the independent filmmaker community. So we'll see how that goes. We depend on those films because we don't make any money out of them. The money that members pay is what we actually give back to filmmakers. So the cash prizes, and we're having also another thing we do is we have picked 2 of the films that have been submitted to us, and we are talking with 3 television networks right now to be distributed. Once we finish that, then we pay about 25-30% royalty.
Cool.
We don't. The television network will pay that royalty continuously to the filmmaker. So that's what we do. That's what we try to provide, that kind of distribution for filmmakers. So we are right now negotiating how that's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the advantages if you stream your film. If we think that it's worthy of television distribution, we go to our contacts in television networks and we say, hey, distribute this. Another thing we do is we look at films. If we like them, we fund them. For example, we got a film right now that we are thinking of funding the TV series for that film, for that particular film. So he already submitted his pilot, and he's going to also send me the Bible, and we're going to look at that and see. And also, we don't accept scripts, but you can also submit your film to our film festival, but submit your scripts to the film festival. If we like a script, we will buy it, and then we will make that script.
Cool.
And obviously, we will choose the filmmakers who are streaming on our network to make those films. The directors, the producers, the actors. It's a small contribution, but I really hope this is how I like to give, and I hope this would be helpful. I put the information in the chat for all of you.
That's great.
Great.
It's wonderful.
Okay, yay! 3 cheers. Thank you. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. From Gilinda B. Do you have any insight on For All Mankind, Ronald D. Moore's project? I'm intrigued, but it means another corporate subscription, and I'm a child of the 60s.
It's a really interesting premise, which is it's an alternative history where the Russians beat us to the moon. And so as a result, the manned space program, the American manned space program continues. The space race continues. And we have a base on the moon, and then off we go to Mars. It's a very good show. It does a very good job with the period. The cast is very talented. It's a little strange. I mean, now the second season is dealing with the whole issue of an escalating war or Cold War on the moon, a moon, you know, a Russian moon base and an American moon base and weapons and all of that. I like the show, but I don't love the show. Anything you want to say about it? You've watched it too. No? I mean, Ron Moore is incredibly talented. I thought his Battlestar Galactica was terrific. And of course, the work he did on Star Trek was great. He's a talented guy, and it's a quality show. So, you know, would I say subscribe to Apple? I mean, what I think is wise to do with a lot of these networks that are airing shows every week, like one at a time, is wait until they've uploaded the entire season and then rent it for a month. And that way you can watch the entire, you know, season of the show for like, you know, $15 or $11 or whatever, and then cancel. You know, I wouldn't subscribe ongoingly, you know, but you know, it's a good show, definitely high quality. So let's see. So Michelle, you're next. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Want me to what?
Woof.
No.
Hello to both of you,
Yes.
to the two of you and your dog.
Yeah. Thanks.
Let's see. I spent a large portion of today out there at Space Command.
Yay! Cheers.
Painting strange little things and hanging up most of your wardrobe and explaining to the nice young lady who has never worked wardrobe before why all the books should face in the same direction and the same categories of clothing should be all together. So there is sort of
something. Michelle, I want to interject something. Michelle asked me for a while which days I would be there, which days we would be in the studio, so that she could rearrange her work schedule
Wow.
to be able to come and volunteer.
Thank you.
Did that today.
Wow.
So that's a trooper.
Thanks, Michelle.
actually I was planning to take the day off because today's my birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday, Michelle.
At Space Command. But it's fine. It's
Thank
what I
you.
wanted to do.
Wow.
That's fine.
That's
And
great.
you've got kind of sort of a system of how things are hanging up there now.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Thank you. That's excellent.
Other than that, I did a self-tape audition, and apologies to Irina, it was necessary to make Russian accent. I'm hoping doing correct, and Irina will not be upset with me.
Yes. Боже мой.
Persons from Valle and also West Hollywood when the anti-immigration came. So anyway, I hope they like my Russian accent. Maybe I'll have a job, and who knows? It's a SAG project, but it's that particular segment of it at least is not on camera. So they asked for a slate where they see you, and then the rest of it was off camera. So it was strange, but anyway, it would be nice to make some money. Other than that, I'm going to sign off because I have been doing a bunch of things, and I've got to return phone calls to people who were nice enough to call me and wish me a happy.
Well, happy birthday! 3 cheers! Yay, Michelle! And you look great for 39. So,
I'm staying there till it's impractical.
Yep.
Thank you for saving our wardrobe.
Yay! Elaine says thanks for saving the wardrobe. So she's taking the dogs down now. So David, do you have another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Indeed. We could do 2 if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have your own Space Command Fleet Commander uniform? Wear it, please.
I don't have my own uniform, but I do have a Space Command crew jacket. So I will wear that next time. So, but I should get a uniform, absolutely. So, okay, number 2?
Yes. Did you pick up, now you're going to love this question.
Okay.
Did you pick up any interesting sets or props from Discovery for Space Command?
No, I haven't. And I've started putting out the word. I did reach out to Narayan Shankar for the Expanse sets, and also my friend Mark Fergus, who's the showrunner and co-creator of the show. But those are up in Canada. Additionally, one of our team was putting the sets For All Mankind in storage, and again, that's another. I'd like those sets as well. So and I was talking to my friend Brian at Profiles in History, because I want to start making the relationships with all these different people so that when these science fiction shows close down, we can get the sets, because usually they just trash them. And
what about the ones we have in the spacesuits, including the ones behind you?
yes, well, we have I think around 14, 15 spacesuits now, and we have set pieces from Cloverfield Paradox. We've got stuff from Thunderbirds coming, the Jonathan Frakes movie. We have stuff coming from the Lost in Space movie. All sorts of stuff. So yeah, and more to come. Many more things to come. So cool. So let's see.
I have a Mr. Sci-Fi question, Mr. Sci-Fi.
Go for it.
Is there anything on that mug you're drinking from? Is
Yes.
it special in any way?
Hint, hint. Yes, it's from the Overlook Hotel, and David Bartlett gave it to me as a present. I'm actually using it because this is the hotel in The Shining, and David actually stayed at the hotel that was used in that movie. So there you go. It's cool.
Contrary to popular belief, it is not in Colorado, although The Shining was set there. That's
Yes.
in Oregon.
Yes, and it's not.
The very opening master shots of The Shining were shot in
Right.
Montana in Glacier Park.
Yes, but it's not the interior, because they built that on a stage, right? But the exterior is used in certain shots, right?
And the exterior also was recreated on a soundstage in England for the final scenes with Scabby and Carruthers in the snow and everything.
Wow, amazing. So great, cool. So thank you for the question, and thank you for the mug. Akira, I guess you're up next.
Hey, hello. So how's it going?
Great.
Just I come to say hello to everybody. Especially I don't have anything new things to tell you so far, and just I'm composing as usual, and teaching Japanese as usual, and playing guitar as usual. And my basic information, I'm originally from Tokyo, Japan. So 2017, the end of 2017, I came to LA from Tokyo, Japan, and to follow my dream to be a film composer, and still is, anyway. And I have been working on several indie film and several music cues for the library music, and that's it so far. And David Burkett, he used my music for his project sometimes, and actually I enjoyed the volunteer in Space Command, something like a warehouse kind of labor. I really enjoyed that, to meet people here, and so far right now it's so hard time. We could not meet each other, but since I came here, I joined this meeting, and I met so many good people, and I met so good opportunity to work with you, and so far I'm so happy now.
Oh, great.
Akira is such a good volunteer for Space Command. He has gloves with his name on them.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, thanks for the credit anyway. in blood.
Yes.
No, not in
blood.
No. And but that's great, Akira. And also one thing I wanted to mention, there's so many people at the table who speak different languages that when the pandemic's over, if you want to do film projects and make it seem like it's on a much bigger scale, utilize foreign language speakers. Because, for instance, let's say you wanted to have a scene in Russia, you could have Arena, or let's say you wanted a scene in Tokyo, you could have Akira, and it would make it seem like you shot all over the world when you could actually just be shooting wherever you're located, and New Jersey, for instance. And but in Space Command, one of the reasons that we have Mira Furlan and Jelena speak Serbo-Croatian, and then we have Victor Manso and several other actors speaking Spanish, is the whole notion of future reality that's on a larger scale and more reality based. So, but people often don't think to do that, and it's a shame, because particularly with the table, there's so many people whose first or second languages are not English, and so I mean, for instance, Ryan Husk, people do not know generally that Ryan Husk is a French citizen and speaks fluent French. So so that, and Gates McFadden, interestingly enough, also speaks fluent French, and she's going to be playing identical twins in Sweet Haven, where one of them was raised in America and one of them was raised in France because their parents split when they were young. And so one of the twins will have an American accent and the other one will have a French accent.
Oh.
So it's going to be very fun. So so there you go. So anything else, Akira?
No.
Okay.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yay, 3 cheers. So David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yeah, we have 2 things here I'll read to you that you can comment on. They're a lot of fun and
Sure.
unusual. Dr. Essex says, I didn't see Rocky Horror in the 70s review. And Juan Soros says, is Rocky Horror sci-fi or more fantasy? Oh, there's 3 here. Galinda B says, they were aliens and a sonic transducer is surely science fiction.
I actually did talk about Rocky Horror Picture Show on because I did 2 parts, part 1 and part 2, talking about 1970s science fiction movie, and I did include Rocky Horror for those very reasons. They are aliens from another planet. There's a great song called Science Fiction Double Feature, which references a lot of classic science fiction movies from the 50s, and you know, so yes, and the design aesthetic is very much based on science fiction, you know, norms. So yep. And the strange thing is that there are any number of films in the 70s. You started to get a lot of them where they were genre mashups. So you'd have sort of like Rocky Horror, which is kind of you know, interesting sexuality and a musical jammed into science fiction and horror, or you'd have Alien, which was science fiction meets the horror genre. You'd have a lot of these kind of things going on. So
Paradise.
yes, Phantom of the Paradise and so forth. By the way, Phantom of the Paradise is the only movie that Guillermo del Toro bought a 35mm print of when he was a young man. Yes, he showed it to me.
It's not perfect, but
No.
I got a real soft spot for it.
It's distinctive, certainly. And yeah, absolutely. So now, David Goldenholtz, you're the next person?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So, as you know, or you can't see my, well, you can't see me, unfortunately. But either way, I'm here in Florida.
Wow.
It is still toasty and warm and
Great.
Raining. And I do voiceover. I also do sound mixing. And I have just got into 3D printing. And to Earl, I also printed a violin, which, you know, so yeah, you know, I print all kinds of strange, interesting things. So
great.
You guys
Send me a picture to my email, Earl F. Smith at Gmail.
All right, just write it in the chat because otherwise I'll forget.
Cool.
But yeah, either way, so I print all kinds of things, and yeah, that's what I've been doing. I also am looking for work, and yes, I did take your advice, Mark. I did put in some 2 or 3 voice clips, and I put them in the table.
Great.
Like I sent an email and all that stuff.
Great. Terrific.
So, yeah.
So is there anything else you need, David?
No,
Cool. Well, good to hear you. So 3 cheers. Great. So David, you have another Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Indeed. Kevin Scott 76 says, was there an actor or other person you were very nervous or scared to meet in person?
That's an interesting question.
Maybe like starstruck, let's say.
Oh, gee. I mean, I love actors and I love working with them. Sometimes I'll be a little nervous, but not hugely. I just want to make sure I don't, you know, make a fool of myself. But it was great to work with George Takei. It was great to work with Nichelle Nichols. You know, it's funny. Harlan Ellison was someone whose regard I always wanted. It varied. You know, I'm not. You know, it's sort of like I view these people as collaborators and friends, and so nothing comes to mind in that regard exactly. I love writing roles for actors whose work I admire, whether it's Robert Foxworth, who I wrote for a few years ago, or James Hong, who was terrific to write for, or Glynn Turman, or any number of actors. I mean, it's wonderful when you write for good actors because they do such a great job. And they, Bob Picardo, I mean, it's just great. But I was never tongue-tied meeting him. I'm just trying to think if I ever was tongue-tied meeting anybody. I mean, when I went on the Star Trek set when I was a kid, DeForest Kelley and Shatner were shooting that day, and Nurse Chapel. It was set in sick bay. It was on Turnabout Intruder, the last episode, and I was kind of, not exactly tongue-tied, but I was just, astonished. It was great to be on that set. But I've just been very grateful to meet these wonderful people, and I haven't met many big movie stars personally, like the Brad Pitts of the world. I tend not to move in film circles. I tend to move in TV circles, and I'm not starstruck in that way. I think if I met certain people, I might be, but no, not in general. So let's see. So I guess it's my turn. Elaine will be back. She's walking the dog. So I guess it's me. So amongst the other things, I wrote a great Space Command story about my character in Space Command called Grizzled Space Jockey. And I just got this, which is the anthology that the story is in. And it has a wonderful little introductory thing. It's got this picture illustrating the story that you may recognize that person. And this is the book. And you can order it from Pie Press Publishing, PIE, and it's probably on Amazon as well. It's Space 1975, and I wrote an introduction in the book, and Barbara Bain is in it, and it's a really fun collection. I'm very glad I did it, and if you want to hear me read that story, it's on Mr. Sci-Fi. It's called Grizzled Space Jockey, and beyond that, just sent out the first 6 hours of Space Command to all of our team and to our actors and to our investors. And we're getting very close to being done with the second hour with all the visual effects plugged in. I think literally, in the next few days, I guess, David, we'll have it all bolted down and ready to ship.
Days, months, years, something like that.
Well, I'm talking about like days, like a Jovian day, or whatever. So, but
Mark years are like dog years.
Yes. But we just but we're moving ahead with Sweet Haven. The table read is going to come up. It's a Zoom table read. Veronica Cartwright just read the script and really loves it, and so we're talking with her manager about casting her. And I'm a huge fan of Aliens, and The Birds, and she's in both of those movies as well as the Donald Sutherland Invasion of the Body Snatcher. So it's going to be thrilling for me to have her in it. And I'm reaching
well in the past, but you mentioned earlier. World Enough in Time. If there's anybody over at Mr. Sci-Fi who hasn't seen that,
yes, it's on.
It really should.
Yes,
the Trek cast is doing their best, but the story and George and
Christina Moses
are just great.
Yeah, and that's on the landing page at Mr. Sci-Fi, so you can watch it. It was nominated for the Hugo and the Nebula Awards, and I'm very, very proud of that.
The great untold Sulu story.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm very proud of it. I co-wrote it with Michael Reeves and directed it and executive produced it, and it's my baby. And I'm reaching out to Deborah Wilson to play Bob Picardo's wife in Sweet Haven. She was on Mad TV. She's also she's a Jedi Knight in one of the most recent Star Wars games, and she's really cool. I've liked her since the days of Mad TV. She's very talented. So we'll see if
she did a project I did in the early 2000s.
Really?
She's got a bit of a controversial character. Huh. I've mentioned this before. It's the worst animated Christmas special ever.
Yes.
And it's got a bit of a cult following before that.
Yeah.
Because of that. But yeah, she was great.
But Bob Picardo recommended her for this role, and they're represented by the same agent. So I put in a call today. So David, you and I will talk about following up on that. And cool. And we're doing the Showrunners Network. So it's, I'm teamed with Rockne O'Bannon and Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby and Joe Dougherty, and, talking to the Serling Estate. And it's going to be 6 series where we shoot 6 2-hour pilots, and that's moving along. And I'm over 2/3 of the way through the new book, Greenlighting Yourself. And that's fun. I'm writing now about how to raise money, which I'm sure people will be very interested in. And one of the things I say in the book is, it's common wisdom that you never invest your own money in your projects. And then I said, but as I've said before, common wisdom is often no wisdom at all. because I know a lot of people have put their own money in their own projects, and that's gotten them started. So, so I go into that. I talk about that. And then there are people like John Sayles and John Cassavetes who would take ordinary acting and writing gigs to then finance their independent films, So there's
Robert Rodriguez would put himself in a month-long medical study and just giving blood and such, and
wow,
use those funds to make El Mariachi.
I didn't know that, Dave, but it will go into the book. So
confirm it, but I think that's the case.
I will. And one of the things that's been great with this book is that I'm quoting J.J. Abrams and Guillermo del Toro and the head of Roadside Attractions, Howard Cohen, my friend Howard Cohen. And whenever I email them and just say fact checking for the book, they immediately respond, and it's great. So because I will obviously, as you say, I want to do it correctly. So in that case, I'll do some research online, and then I'll run it by Robert Rodriguez, and I'm sure he'll respond, because who doesn't want to be quoted in a book on how to have a career in this industry,
Just look at his book, Rebel Without a Crew. It's all about it.
Yes.
All about his experiences in the test.
Yes, that's funny. That's great. So, but beyond that, we're just moving along on all fronts. It's very exciting. Mr. Sci-Fi has 81,000 subscribers now, which is terrific. And, we have an Instagram presence, and, it just keeps going. And I'm, living the dream, and happy to be here. So that's me. Elaine just came back from the dog. And so, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Indeed. So, this isn't quite a question.
Okay.
Scott Gamble says, concerning the Twilight episode, The Odyssey of Flight 33.
Yes.
And this is the one with dinosaurs, right?
It's the one about an airliner that gets lost in time and sees a brontosaurus from the wing through the window of the plane. Yeah.
Right. Oh, someone also just put up here, is everything okay with Adam? Yes, Adam is shooting in Texas.
Yes.
He's very okay with Adam. He has no problems. In fact, he's having a great time.
No, I was going to say, you shouldn't have said that, David. What I was going to say is, no, that last Mr. Sci-Fi question from last week so pissed him off that you're not going to see him from now on. I mean, it was like, whoever asked that question, you really shouldn't have. Yeah, he's gone. He's out of here. No.
I'll be doing this next week too.
Yeah, but Adam's great, and we really appreciate all of his efforts. So, anything else? Any other question? And then Elaine will be joining us for her turn.
Do you want to comment more on Odyssey?
Read it like Adam would.
The Odyssey of Flight 33. Do you want to comment more on that?
Well, it's a script by Rod Serling, and it's a very good script. And I'll tell you about it. Rod had a lesser-known brother, Robert Serling, who was a writer and editor for Aviation Weekly. And both of them, both Rod and Bob, were real devotees of airplanes. They loved airplanes. Rod would build model airplane kits. In fact, when he died, there were unmade airplane kits in his attic, which I saw when I was writing the Twilight Zone Companion. But so one day, Bob was visiting Rod, and Rod had an Excalibur car, a very expensive car. And at one point, he got this kind of dreamy look in his eye, and he said to Bob, "You drive," because they were driving to the studio. And Bob was very surprised, because he said Rod never let anyone else drive his cars. And Rod was sitting in the passenger seat, and suddenly he said to Bob, "What would happen if a pilot of a commercial airliner hit a jet stream that accelerated the plane, and suddenly they found themselves back in time?" And that was the basic kernel of the idea. And Bob Serling then called, or I think he invited a friend of his who was an airline pilot over to his place, and they basically polished off a fifth of whiskey or whatever, bourbon, and they laid out all the steps of what would happen if that happened, all the aviation steps. And then he went over it with Rod, and Rod wrote the script. And so Bob Serling is credited as a consultant on that episode, and it was incredibly accurate, unusually so for the time. And it's one of the great Twilight Zone episodes, really phenomenal. And it has stop motion animation. I think that's the only episode that does, of a dinosaur. And it's a really good episode. So there you go. So now, Elaine
They actually shot that brontosaurus section. They didn't.
No,
with the stock footage.
it was the tabletop jungle and the brontosaurus were from a movie, but that specific shot was for the Twilight Zone. Yeah, I think it cost $8,000 for that one shot, and which was a lot at the time. And John Anderson played the pilot, and I interviewed him, and he was a great guy, really perfect as the airline pilot. It's a really good episode. So Elaine is here. Elaine, yay, Elaine! 3 cheers. So go for it. It's your turn.
Sorry for my absence with the doggles.
Dogs.
No, just keeping extremely busy. Of course, Space Command you just heard about. The piece that I'm working that has a number of table people in the cast, although there should be more, is called The Voiceless Roar, having to do with the shifting of power and monies away from average Joe Americans to corporate few, the 1%ers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really about people fighting back, finding their voices. It's called The Voiceless Roar, finding their voices to fight back for what America and the American dream is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
So I just finished every couple of years, and every period of time, I look at it and I take it out and I do a polish, a rewrite to make sure that the events and the language are appropriate. So I just finished a rewrite, potential letter, and we're just about to start seeing if we can get the interest of a studio for the money. So
anything you need?
A studio with money who is interested in socially progressive work.
Okay, good. Uh-oh, look out.
That's it.
So, okay, great. Yay, Elaine, 3 cheers. So I think we've reached the end of our journey for tonight. So it's been great, guys. And, and again, we're here every Thursday, 5:30 with our Mr. Sci-Fi table, simulcast. And tell your friends. And we're happy to answer questions and let people know what we think about things. And thank you for moderating it tonight, David Bartlett. You are a man among men. But you don't play the tuba, unfortunately. That's a drawback.
No, I do.
You do?
I don't play the tuba now, but I did play the tuba in a band.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Wow. Well, then I can understand why Adam selected you as his surrogate this week. Yeah.
Adam and I have shared notes on the difference between a tuba and a sousaphone.
There you go.
And we're going to end that conversation there.
Wow. That's, well, you're a real man, no doubt about it. So, okay, great. Well, thanks. It's great seeing all of you. And yes, Marka Gushowitz, we will definitely talk about movies we love. And that'll be a lot of fun. There's a great film by Carl Zayman that was about these 3 kids who go on a raft down a river back through time to the age of the dinosaurs. And it was shown in installments when I was a kid on television, which didn't include the title of the movie nor any of the credits. And throughout my entire childhood, I never met another child or anyone who had seen the film. And when I grew up, I thought maybe I imagined it. And then finally, I found out what it was. It was a film by Carl Zayman, a Czech filmmaker, called Journey to the Beginning of Time. And it's terrific. It's terrific. I love it very much. So that's about it. So we will see you next time. See you next time, Mr. Sci-Fi fans. And thanks for everything. Yay! 3 cheers. Bye. Good night. Good night. See you soon. Bye. And we will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.